Hey, what is going on, YouTube? This is Mohammed, your personal PMP coach from Certify with Ease. Coming back to you guys with another video, the 5 PMP questions you're likely to see on the exam. This is a part of our AT, or triple AT series where we discuss questions that you might see on the exam, or at least the concepts. You can definitely expect to see them on the exam, okay? So remember, before we jump into these questions, I have a PMP course if you're interested in getting certified as soon as possible without taking a 35-hour Udemy course, without attending those super long, expensive PMP boot camps, or without studying for 3 to 4 months. Book an appointment with me in the description below. But for now, let's work on these 5 problems. Remember, in order to pass the PMP exam, you need 2 things and 2 things only. Number 1, mindset. More specifically, mindset principles that can guide you to the answer as quickly as possible. To your right-hand side, you'll see the list of mindset principles that I teach, that I have been teaching, that I have used myself. They're very, very helpful. Make sure you study them. And number 2, you have to practice on as many problems as possible, more specifically situation-based problems, because 80% of the exam is situation-based. Okay. Enough talking. Let's get into these 5 PMP questions. I'm loving this little style over here. Just so my designer designed this for me. So shout out to him. Anyways, question number 1. All right. So I chose specifically long questions. But on your exam, you're going to get a mix of long questions, some short questions, some medium-length questions as well. So don't think that your exam is just going to be filled with long questions, okay? Don't worry about that. All right, that's cool. Let's jump into it right now. A third-party supplier. Actually, you know what? Let's do something differently. Let me look at the solutions first for this question only. Let me eliminate the answers that contradict our principles, okay? I want to show you that these principles actually work. A, communicate the third-party supplier situation to the client and request prompt payment. Okay. So requesting prompt payment. Well, we got to read the question to understand, but let's not eliminate that right away. Notify the client that the project will be delayed. Okay. I already know right off the bat that this cannot be the solution. This contradicts principle number 2. Never settle for a delay. Never. C, reallocate resources from the other projects to ensure the third-party supplier is paid. Okay, so we never really want to reallocate resources, but I don't know the situation, so we'll have to read to find out. D, secure a bank loan to cover the third-party supplier's payroll. Okay, so this is not going to be the answer. This one contradicts our principle number 2 as well, where we are increasing the costs, the project costs. So we don't want to do that immediately. Okay, let's read the question now. A third-party supplier is requesting payment for services rendered for a project. The agreement was that the payment would be made once the organization receives payment from the client. Okay. The supplier, lacking the capital to cover their payroll, has warned the project manager that if they do not receive payment soon, they will pull team members from the project. What should the PM do? All right. Okay. So we have one of these situations. Okay. So this is a situation where you might get on your exam. It might be a 1 question out of 180. But here's a key. The agreement was the payment was to be made once the organization receives the payment from the client. Sorry. The agreement was that the payment would be made once the organization receives payment from the client. However, the client has not paid anything. The client is basically broke. So what do we do? We're not going to reallocate resources because it's not our fault. It's the client's fault. It's an issue the client has to deal with. So we're going to pick A. We're going to take a step back. We're going to communicate the third-party supplier situation to the client first. Okay? We're going to communicate that to the client because the third-party supplier is asking for payment. and then we're going to request prompt payment. Now, this is acceptable. This is acceptable because it was what was defined in the contract. On your exam, you might see something like this, or you might see something like communicate the third-party supplier situation to the client and then decide on next steps. They might not be specific. However, request prompt payment is acceptable because it has been stipulated in the contract. And remember, it is very important for you as a project manager to stipulate conditions in a contract. You are a servant leader, but you are also a manager. And sometimes managers have to pull strings and make things happen. Okay? They can't be all friendly and encouraging and motivating all the time. There has to be a typical boss at times. Okay? A is going to be the best answer here. Let's look at the answer that we have. A is the answer. All right? Awesome. Let's move on to the next question. Question number 2. So let us read the question now, and we'll get into the question. We'll get into the answers later on. I kind of skipped the steps. You want to always frame your problem first. So that's the first thing you want to do on your actual exam. So a PM has been assigned to lead a software project aimed at generating savings for a major financial institution. All right, so here's the thing. I already know that this information is not important. I don't care that I'm dealing with a major financial institution. I don't care that we're generating savings, right? All I'm reading from this is that we're working on a project. That's it. You have to be able to read and pick out the right information that you need in order to answer the question. That's going to save you so much time. Anyways, originally the project was scheduled to last 13 months, but due to various challenges during execution, it was extended to 16 months. By month 11, the expected savings had already been exceeded, although not all the functionalities planned for that time had been completed. How should the project manager update stakeholders on the project's progress? Okay. So the problem statement is, let's see if we have any room here. I'll try to squeeze it here. Project is late. Plus, not all the functionalities have been completed. Not all functionalities completed. So we want to know how should we update the stakeholders? A, complete the remaining functionalities before informing the sponsor about the project's progress. Okay, so there's a couple of things wrong with this. Complete the remaining functionalities. However, by month 11, the expected savings had already been exceeded. So we're broke. We're out of money. How are we going to complete these functionalities? And inform the sponsor. Why the sponsor? We're talking about the stakeholders here. You're most probably not going to go. Actually, you might go to the sponsor because you don't have money. So you might ask the sponsor, "Hey, can we make an arrangement?" And I know that I've been saying do not escalate things to the sponsor. So when do you go to the sponsor? You go to the sponsor when you don't have money. Okay. However, we are concerned with updating the stakeholders. So this doesn't include all the stakeholders. I'm not going to choose this because number one, primarily, it does not solve the core problem. We're not going to be able to complete the remaining functionalities out of thin air. Communicate the achieved benefits and provide an action plan for the remaining functionalities. I like that. Achieved benefits is similar to saying the value. Okay? Anytime, this is one of our principles, you can check on your right-hand side. I just forgot the number. But anytime they mention something where it's like take a value-driven approach or make a value-driven decision, that is most probably going to be your answer. Anyways, send a monthly progress update email to all relevant stakeholders. Okay. But how should the project manager update? So no, if you send a monthly progress update email to all relevant stakeholders, how are we going to update? How are we going to update the stakeholders? What's our process behind it? What's going to be included in this progress email? So I don't really like C because it's not complete. However, it doesn't necessarily contradict any of our principles. If they meant monthly, like next month, that would mean there's a delay, but I'm not sure. So let's just leave it. Report that the project has not yet completed all of the expected functionalities. Okay, yes, we know that. That's, of course, what we have to report. However, B is going to be the best answer. We're gonna tell the stakeholders that this is what we have achieved. These are the benefits that we've got, and we're going to provide an action plan. That's the complete answer. So okay, we weren't able to complete everything, but this is a plan moving forward. So B is going to be a very good answer. I like that. And let's see what the answer is. B is the answer. All right, awesome. So let's move on to the next question. Question number 3. A PM has received the project charter for a new product. The project has 2 primary deliveries: the hardware component, which has detailed specifications, including a sample machine and a user interface software, which has only basic specification and a requirement for a user experience design approach. Okay, so this question was made on purpose to confuse you. You got words like hardware component, sample machine, interface software. What are we talking about here? Focus on the problem statement. We are concerned with what project approach we should use. We got a predictive, agile, hybrid. Which one should we use? We have some information that the hardware component. You know, I'm not even going to highlight hardware component. I'm just going to say that there's something that has detailed specifications. When something has detailed specifications, apologies for that. When something has detailed specifications, then it's planned out in detail. Planning things out in detail are predictive, completely predictive. Okay, so let's continue reading. Including a sample machine. I don't care about the sample machine and the user interface software. I don't care about that, but we understand that it has only basic specifications, and we have a requirement for a user experience. Okay, so we have 2 things. We have highly detailed, something that's highly detailed, plus loosely defined. This is a hybrid model 100% of the way. So let's skip. Let's read A. Since software development involves high uncertainty and agile approach. Okay, so it's not necessarily true because we also have a detailed feature. A hybrid approach should be used with agile for software development. Right? Yes, makes sense. Over here, user interface software. Yeah. And a predictive approach for hardware deliveries. Yes, I like that. We're going to use that. Okay. Why am I skipping C and D? Because C and D does not talk about project approach. It talks about creating a program, and it talks about, since the scope is this is predictive, so we know we have to use hybrid, right? Because there's 2 components we're balancing out with. Okay. So on your exam, you are going to get a question not like this, not as detailed, but you are going to get a question where they give you a situation. You're going to either have to pick agile, predictive, or hybrid. Read the question carefully. If you see something has uncertainty and then something else, we know how to handle it. Hybrid. Okay. If something is completely uncertain, agile. If something is completely planned out, predictive. All right. Pretty easy, but remember, we are trying to learn the concepts here. When you are doing these questions, note the concepts down. It will help you so much. Awesome. Okay, we got this. B is good. All right. So now we move on to question number 4. So in a time-sensitive construction project, all right, bonus points. What project approach should we use for a construction project? Let's just say it's a construction of a, I don't know. Does the question say? No, it doesn't. Construction of a condo building. Okay. What project approach should we take, typically speaking? So there's a misunderstanding between the supervisor and the technician escalating into a major conflict. The technician has complained to the project manager, stating they can no longer work under the supervisor. The supervisor, on the other hand, blames the technician's poor performance as the cause of the issue. How should the project manager resolve the situation? Okay. So now this is really interesting. I like the fact that they mentioned construction project. And the reason being is because if they mentioned agile, or if they mentioned like software development project or something that has to do with agile, normally you would think, let the project managers take a step back and let the team handle it. But remember this fundamental rule: whether it be a predictive project or an agile project or a hybrid project, when you have a performance issue, and obviously when you have a major conflict, that's something different, right? This is not a little conflict. But when you have a performance issue as well, project manager needs to step in. Okay? So a problem statement here is that we have a major conflict. Let's just say major conflict in the team. Plus, we also have poor performance. Awesome. What should we do? A, take a direct collaborative approach to address the issue with both technician and supervisor. Yes, makes sense. You want to take a direct and collaborative approach. Direct, meaning that what? You're there. You show up. This is a serious thing. Collaborative, everyone gets involved. That's a servant leader trait. You involve everyone. Well, not everyone. Everyone in the conflict. So the supervisor and the technician. You get them involved. You talk it out. See what's going on. I like it. Offer just-in-time training to the technician to enhance their skills. So again, this is not a well, yeah, the technician has poor performance, but what about the major conflict? What are we going to do about that? Does that completely solve the core problem? It doesn't. So because of that, we're going to eliminate it. Replace the technician with a high-performing resource as the project timeline is critical. Okay. So again, the major conflict doesn't solve it, but also this contradicts one of our principles, principles number 3, where you never want to create friction in the team. So replacing your team members is something that you don't want to do. When you replace your team members, it creates friction. Why did you fire John? Why did you fire Josh? Why did you let him go? You as a project manager, you have to deal with them. You have to deal with the person. Okay, so do not create unnecessary friction in the team. Speak with the supervisor to encourage a more constructive approach and attitude. Okay, well, supervisor is not the only one at fault. So the technician has poor performance, or at least from the supervisor's perspective, he has poor performance, and we have to address that. So D doesn't completely address the problem. It doesn't get both the technician and supervisor involved. I like A, it involves both of them. It completely solves the problem. That's going to be my answer. Okay, last question of the day. Let's look at the answers first. Let's see if we can eliminate some of the answers. Review the supplier's contract to understand the terms of sale. That's probably going to be the that's probably going to be the answer. I don't know if it is. I haven't read the problem, but this is principle number 1. I remember my fundamental rule. When you see principle number 1 in an answer, it's probably the answer. You're taking a step back, you're reviewing the supplier's contract, and you're understanding the terms. B, demand the supplier deliver the goods on the agreed date. Okay. C, update the risk register and seize the opportunity presented by the tax reduction. Okay. Accept the risk and update the risk register accordingly. Okay. So C and D could be good answers too if this is a risk problem, which it could be because both C and D talk about risk. Okay, let's read the problem now. A PM has been assigned to oversee the construction of a new solar farm that will supply clean energy to a housing complex. Bonus question: what project approach should we use for a solar farm? Man, I don't know if that's been done before. I think multiple times, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, but that's not important information. I don't care that we're building a solar farm for a housing complex. That's not important information. All I'm considering is that we are building we are leading a project. The government has announced a tax reduction on renewable energy products starting January 1st. Okay. The supplier has informed the project manager that the solar panels, originally scheduled for delivery on December 20th, may be delayed until early January. All right. Additionally, the project will face similar constraints due to the December holidays. What should the project manager do regarding this risk? Okay. Problem statement is this. Problem statement is there's a delay. And because, forgot the A there. There's a delay. And we know that a delay is a potential, it is a risk. Okay. So that's a problem statement in a nutshell. So you as a project manager, or you as someone writing the PMP exam, you need to understand how to deal with a risk. So now this is really interesting. Update the risk register. Okay, so B is not going to be the answer. They've already stated that it's going to be delayed, or may be delayed. Sorry, that's a really important point. Oh man, guys, I totally forgot about this. Oh, there we go. Let me just highlight this. May be delayed. Okay. So it may be delayed. We're not going to say that it's an immediate risk right now. Super important. All right. May be delayed. Update the risk register and seize the opportunity to be presented by the tax reduction. C and D are gone because the risk may not happen. The project may not be delayed. So it's originally scheduled for December 20th, may be delayed until early January. Additionally, the project will face similar constraints due to the December holidays. The best thing to do is to take a step back, like I mentioned, review the supplier's contract, understand what has been stipulated, understand if there are other ways to potentially mitigate this risk. If there is, then we don't have to do C and D. Or if there's not, then maybe we have to do C and D, but you won't know until you gather all the required information. That information is going to be in the terms of sale. I want to ask you guys a bonus question, and forget about all the other questions because those are fun. But let's just say that potentially now, what if there is a risk? What if it has been determined it's going to be delayed? There's a risk now. What do we do? So the project in totality, is not delayed yet, but we know that the delivery is going to be delayed. Okay, what should we do? Let's just narrow it down to C and D. Out of C and D, what should we do? Okay, but anyways, for this answer, it's going to be A. And guys, remember this fundamental rule. If you're confused on your exam and you have 4 answers, and one of the answers is principle number 1, trust me on this, just choose principle number 1. Principle number 1 is this concept where before making any decision, you as a project manager, you need to gather all the information, investigate, discuss whatever you need to do to gather that information, and then make a sound decision after that. Okay? A is the answer. We got it. Okay, perfect. So, guys, I have a PMP certification program. Get certified in 30 days. If you are tired of months of studying, if you are tired of spending so much time and energy and resources on your studies, you work 9 to 5, you come back and you study, and you go back to your 9 to 5, you don't have that much time to spend with your family, book an appointment with me. Let's discuss. And if my course meets your needs, let us sign you up. What do you have to lose? You get your money back, if anything. Okay? Take care and have a fantastic rest of the day. I will see you in the next video.